Hello, everybody. Thank you for clicking on. I said I would not be back unless there was something big, and we do indeed have a couple of big things that have just recently, just recently happened. Let's begin and get the information out there. Secret Services have ramped up security after receiving intel of Iranian plot to assassinate Trump. Authorities obtained intelligence from a human source in recent weeks of a plot by Iranians to try to assassinate Donald Trump. Remember, if you watch this, I told you, and we've said many times, Iran has a $10 million bounty on Donald Trump's head. Now, the Secret Service knew about this. This is recent weeks. Secret Service knew about this before Saturday's incident. Uh, in other news, breaking Columbus Police, the Columbus, Ohio Police Department have sent some of their police to Milwaukee to help out with security for the Republican National Convention. Columbus police have shot a suspect about a mile away from the Republican convention in Milwaukee. Columbus police there to help provide security. This came in just 40 minutes ago. The assumption, of course, is that this does have something to do with the convention, and we will monitor this and give you more information as it becomes available. This is indeed breaking news. Again, the U.S. obtained intel recent weeks of a plot by Iran to try to assassinate Trump, a development that led to the Secret Service increasing security before Saturday's shooting. I think that's significant that they had increased the security and still all of this happened on Saturday. Plot has no known connection to Crooks. However, Crooks, of course, Thomas Matthew Crooks, the 20-year-old white male Republican, registered Republican that was killed after taking approximately, allegedly, 3 shots at President Trump. Um, the CNN host is not happy after former U.S. Army sniper Corey Mills suggests that the attempt on Trump could have been a setup. We've been talking about it and catching a bunch of heat, but you have to um, you have to start with everything you see, all the information you get. The first thing you have to do is say, "Is this true?" And and I get checked on it all the time. Is what you're saying true? And if I'm relatively certain it is, I say yes. If not, I say allegedly because I'm not there. I don't know. Let's give a listen to what Corey has to say, and I want to put this out there. Now, th- there are a number of things that could have happened if this was a setup to increase Trump's popularity. Um, it went bad because somebody got killed. However, it doesn't look like it's that big of a deal to anybody in the Republican Trump campaign group that somebody got killed and others were injured. Um, so that in and of itself draws a little makes it a little sus, as the kids say. However, what if Trump knew that this was all going to go down, and his security team knew it was all going to go down because it is a um, it is a political operation. However, the shooter um, was instructed by someone else otherwise, that it wasn't a setup, that the shooter wasn't supposed to miss, that this was actually going to be Donald Trump's execution, and he was going to allow it to happen by thinking it was a setup. Is that out of the realm of the possibility that Trump himself was conned by someone else? I don't know. Let's listen.
I look at all of these things and I look at different videos where an assailant will pull a firearm on a law enforcement officer, and the first thing they do is they immediately pull and draw and mitigate the threat and the risk. I ask why the local law enforcement officer did not do so. The other thing is that when you set up an advanced team, I keep hearing this about the perimeter elements.
Yeah.
The perimeter is actually established by your threats that are in the area. So if I don't have any threats outside of 100 yards, okay, fine, I can cordon off a certain area. But if I have a building 160 yards perfectly adjacent to the stage, that's an obvious threat, especially with an elevated position that has overwatch.
Mm-hmm.
That's a sniper's paradise. And, we talk about egos.
Now, if you watch the show on a regular basis, you're going to hear a lot of exactly the same thing Chris has been saying on here. Chris, of course, our counterterrorism, military, and security expert, and having worked as a Washington, D.C. police officer, as well as in the armed forces and as a Department of Defense contractor, he has he's a valuable, incredibly valuable asset always, but especially now. And you're going to hear some of the things Chris has been saying.
You also have, which no one talks about, but the water tower.
So what I'm hearing from you is it's not a failure on the ground for sure, but 100%. Also a failure in advance?
I think it's a failure in advance. I think it's a failure to have the counter snipers to be able to establish their range fin and their sketch maps.
I also heard we've also learned that local snipers were stationed inside that building. At the time.
I haven't heard that piece of it yet, but that doesn't necessarily make sense unless they were actually in a window which was backed off, because a lot of times you'll get yourself in there. Sometimes you expose your rifle in a way to try and do a force protection or a show of force that actually stops things. Others are actually more tactical where they'll sit back a little bit, but a sniper for the law enforcement is only trained to shoot about 75 yards, unlike your counter sniper teams that are on set. But here's my problem. In having done this for so long, they always say the adage of ignorance is bliss, and I think that's true. I've done thousands of advances. I've done thousands of counter sniper operations with our teams in Iraq and Afghanistan, etc. The amount of negligence, the amount of mistakes that was made here, I have a very difficult time not leaning myself towards this was intentional as opposed to fecklessness.
But wait, talk to me about that. I actually heard you say this right the day after, which I wanted to ask you about. What do you mean?
Again, you got to have an open mind. All right, we've been talking that this sure looks like the number of questions that we have posed on this program. It sure looks like it was either absolute total ineptness from allowing the shots to happen, to allowing Trump to stay on the stage, to what we just showed in the episode before this one, some sort of law enforcement officer taking a knee and smoking a cigarette 90 seconds after a presidential assassination attempt. Go back and watch that video.
Intentional.
I
mean an intentional failure on the part of...
No, I wouldn't say an intentional failure on the part of, but I got to just, I sit here and I scratch my head, and you don't want to be the conspiracist. You don't want to be the person.
I'm telling you, because that's what it's leaning toward.
No, I know. And that's the issue, is that you walk this fine balance of, you're not trying to be a conspiracist, but you look at it and you go, how could this have gone so...
But it's one thing if someone on the street says it. It's not. You, Corn Mills, member of Congress, former sniper, you saying it. It makes my eyebrows go up. When you say you're walking the line on this, intentional what?
It almost seems to me, I think that an investigation is necessary at this point within Congress, not just the FBI, not just others. I look back at it and I'm thinking, all right, for an individual, if you looked at the escalations and how they are trying to approach him, let's just say that it was like, okay, first we want to censor and silence you, then we want to indict and imprison you. Now we're attempting to kill you and take.
Whoa. Let's slow down.
Please.
I'm hearing two things from you. I don't want to jump ahead of things, but I'm also hearing you jumping ahead of things.
Well, actually, I'm just looking at all the different possible capabilities. One of the things as a military member, one of the things as a person who's running the special operations communities before, one of the people who's actually done this is that you look at all potential analysis, right?
Donald Trump and his team have said,
no, I agree.
Dial it back. Do not blame this on Joe Biden.
Oh, well, actually, I didn't say Joe Biden, to be completely
clear. They then? Let's be very specific.
Well, that's what the investigation has to do. Was it local law enforcement that had made the mistakes? or was there something to it? Was there other types of things that we need to be analyzing or looking at and providing analysis? My point is that when something's so significant, you're talking about something that hasn't happened in decades, right?
I totally,
But my point is this: from a perspective of someone who's actually conducted these are not difficult advances. This is not like I'm putting together a stage placement in a tight shot. This is about looking at your surroundings. What is my green, yellow, and red route, which is your routes out in case? What is my actual elements that I need to be looking at as far as mitigating threats or risks or increased levels? Where's my range fan for the sniper that says, okay, here's my 100, my 200, my sketch. Here's an area where someone could shoot. Because here's my thing.
So you're
Let's
saying,
just say it's a Royce element.
You're saying this is so basic that how big the screw up was, that's what's leading your brain down this road?
That's exactly right, in a way.
Look,
but because here's the other thing. Let's
Tom
just say
Emmer
it's
was
a
just on.
resource.
Tom Emmer was just on with me, and he said very specifically to me, I wrote it down.
Mhm.
He said very clearly, it is too early to be talking about who is at fault and who is responsible.
That's why an investigation is necessary.
But, is it not dangerous? Is it not reckless to even be throwing around the word intentionally?
So to question things as we do an investigation is recklessness, because at that point, then should we never question anything? My point is this.
I'm not trying to be PC. My point is, in the political environment that we are in,
what would it have taken? Right? Let's just say that resources was limited. Let's go with that as a reasoning. So how many times have you seen where they just put a police car inside of a parking lot with not an officer in it and just leave the lights on as a deterrent? Why couldn't that have been a simple thing that was placed in? Why couldn't we have said to the owner of the actual AGR company, hey, look, we don't want to disrupt your business, but we also want to make sure your parking lot is clear of people trying to park in there for the rally. Why don't we place an officer there? My point is that this was too easy of a solution. And when I think about 160
I'm just so uncomfortable with even having.
I'm uncomfortable with having to say it. Trust me, my whole point is that I would like to look at this and say, where was the mistake made? How can we correct it in the future? Why was this actually done? But I think that this does warrant a J13 type commission where we can actually look at it and say, let's investigate and find out why this happened so it doesn't happen to anyone. This is not about a political thing. This is about, we had an attempt to assassinate a president.
Mm-hmm.
We really need to understand.
A former presidential candidate, just to be clear, not the current president, which is important. Because Chris brought this up, and we're going to talk about it in depth Friday. But the Secret Service is not an unlimited agency. They have a limited number of agents, and agents are provided for the president, for the vice president, for presidential candidates, for others that are deemed probably at the moment, Supreme Court might have some Secret Service as well as their normal U.S. U.S. Marshal protections. A Republican asking these questions and saying that this could have been staged is key, because there is a big division in the Republican coalition at the moment. And we've talked about it on here. The QAnon people are not happy at all. The MAGA people, the QAnon are the most radical of the group. The MAGA people are the radical Republican wing. And then you got Republicans who aren't MAGA. Now, the QAnon people are really, really, really honked off because they did not get who they were told was going to be the vice president. The black community in the Republican wing were told that there was going to be a black vice president candidate chosen. And they come up with J.D. Vance. And Republicans are not happy about this. Okay. I personally think J.D. Vance is in danger and will be in danger. Trump will probably not be doing any more outside rallies. Trump will probably be doing very, very few public appearances. it's going to be on JD Vance. And JD Vance is going to be the one out in the open. And, you know, we are in those times. We are in those times. And I've never heard anyone say, anyone that is not MAGA or QAnon, I've never heard anyone say, boy, I can't wait till we can start killing those MAGAs or we can start killing QAnon. Maybe they do, but I've just never heard anyone say it. I've heard a whole bunch of MAGA and QAnon people say they can't wait till they can start killing everybody that's not them. That's for real. I've had it to my face. I've had that, and maybe even from a couple of people watching right now that are laughing, going, "Yeah, I told you that," and it's coming. Um, so there is violence in that wing of that party, and it's sad. It's sad that we are where we are. I really, I really believe there are people pushing us towards civil war. And instead of just allowing it to happen, we ought to be trying to stop those people. But nonetheless, let's wrap up here. Again, this is uh, um, a real quick episode. I forgot to show this earlier. This is from last night's convention.
He can't stay awake. My boy cannot stay awake. He sleep. He sleep. They talking. He sleep.
He does look like he's having trouble staying awake. Just saying. Um, okay, one more thing here I want to show that I was planning on showing earlier, and I didn't. This is Representative John James. He said, I heard earlier today, if you don't vote for Donald Trump, you're not black. Um, and again, the black community in the Republican wing thought they were going to have Cory Booker, or not Cory Booker, but what's the dude's name? Tim Scott. Tim Scott, or perhaps the dude from North Carolina that was just recently talking about how killing people need to be killed, who's running for governor down there. Anyway, here's what happened last night.
Yeah, I heard a little bit earlier today, if you don't vote for Donald Trump, you ain't black. But see, here's the thing. By the grace of God, yeah, I heard a little bit earlier.
Okay. You notice there wasn't anybody in the crowd that was indeed a member of the black community. So, all right. I'm going to say again, I'm not going to be on tonight. I'm going to get off of here, and we will be monitoring things. Sadly, a police action shooting in Milwaukee, and 1 mile away approximately from a Republican National Convention that will be going on through Thursday night. If we have more, and we will get on and get it out to you. If mainstream hasn't picked up on this yet, I imagine mainstream will start covering. I just want to make everybody aware of it so you can start looking out for yourselves. And also, I've been mentioning on here that there's a $10 million bounty on Donald Trump's head by the government of Iran, and an Iranian plot has been revealed finally that we kind of got word of a couple of weeks ago, and it's now public. So we wanted to get that out as well. Thank you all for being here, and keep your head on a swivel. It is definitely dark times. I love y'all. See you next time.